Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of 10 to Life. My name is Elise, and I am here bringing you true crime cases in under 10 minutes. Start to finish, the full case, where it stands today, every crazy detail included, but no boring plot lines or filler storylines. I'm giving you the facts and the crazy details that you want to hear, start to finish, under 10 minutes. So if you like the video, please subscribe to my channel below. Feel free to like, comment, share, give me your feedback. I would love to hear it. And please, any case recommendations, send them to my email. It's in the description box below. This case today actually came from a recommendation from you guys, so thank you. And let's go ahead and jump into it. So I want to give a little bit of warning before we jump into today's case. Pretty disturbing, pretty graphic, pretty gruesome. And for me, when I first started reading about it, it actually reminded me a lot of the Gabriel Fernandez case. And I don't know if you're very familiar with that case. If you are, then you understand where this is going, but I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a warning up front. So Victoria Martens was born in 2006. She lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico with her mom, Michelle, and Michelle had no real criminal background, but wasn't exactly mother of the year. She loosely played with alcohol, smoked marijuana, dabbled in drugs here and there, but again, no real criminal background. Victoria would go to school, she would come home from school. There weren't any immediate red flags that were raised. However, on August 24th, 2016, on Victoria's 10th birthday, police responded to a truly horrifying call at the residence of Michelle Martens, Victoria's mom. After responding to a 911 call, police enter the second-story apartment building where they see a cloud of smoke coming from behind the bathroom door. Upon opening the door, they see a burning blanket, and inside the burning blanket is a dismembered body, burning, belonging to Victoria. Sorry, this is a really hard one. I'm a mom, and it's a tough one. Victoria was pronounced dead at the scene, her body in pieces, and had just been burned. Victoria's mom, Michelle, who was 35 at the time, and her boyfriend, Fabian, who was 31, were arrested at the scene, along with Fabian's cousin, Jessica, who was 31 years old and had just been released from prison 4 days earlier. They were charged with first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, child abuse, and kidnapping. Now, quickly, before we go into the details, I mentioned that Fabian's cousin Jessica had just been released from prison 4 days prior. She had a long criminal record with drugs, violence, and most recently, while she was incarcerated, she was convicted of conspiracy in a rape investigation that took place inside the jail. The police report says that the victim was running away from Jessica and her cellmate and was hiding under the bed when Jessica grabbed her, pulled her out from under the bed, and stood at the doorway watching guard while the other inmate assaulted her. An awful human being. So the police begin their investigation as to what happened to Victoria, and after all of these deadbeat people are arrested, they start speaking with her mother, Michelle. And what Michelle tells them is honestly something so horrific, I can't even get my mind to wrap around it and understand how it's plausible. Like I told you, she has no real criminal background. However, she does tell police she would often seek men online to engage in sexual acts with her 2 children, one being Victoria and the other her son, all while she would watch for pleasure. I mean, that is the most sick and twisted thing I've ever heard in my life. Not just because I'm a mom, but because that is just so deranged and disgusting. Michelle allegedly met Fabian, her 31-year-old boyfriend, who was also arrested at the scene, on a dating website called Plenty of Fish 1 month prior to Victoria's murder. Michelle tells police that she had been giving Victoria alcohol and injected her with meth prior to her death to relax her so that Fabian and Jessica could have sex with her. I mean, I can't even talk about it without getting emotional. It is so disturbing. So she tells police that she sat there as a bystander and watched Victoria get drugged, raped, and murdered while she sat by and watched, and it was Victoria's 10th birthday. So as everybody's arrested, awaiting trial, years pass. On June 29th, 2018, Michelle decides to strike a plea bargain, and she admits to guilt for child abuse, endangerment resulting in a death, and tampering with evidence. But she says she wasn't even there for the murder, and she recants her entire statement. And Michelle actually says she gave a false confession, which, first of all, why on earth, if you were ever to give a false confession, why would that be the one? How would you make up these sick and twisted, deranged details and that be the false confession? Wouldn't the false confession be something way more played down and watered down? Not that level of detail and not that gross of details and inhumane details? She says she and Fabian were out of the house at the time, and when they returned, Victoria was already dead, unbeknownst to Michelle, and that Fabian and Jessica were the ones who dismembered her body, burned her body to dispose of the evidence, but that she had no part in it. And they accepted the deal. Courts say that investigators did determine that her confession was completely made up and didn't align with the timeline of the rest of the story. I understand that sometimes investigations lead you down a path and you discover something is a complete different way than you once maybe initially thought. However, for somebody to make up that level of detail and go into that crazy storyline, it makes it very difficult for me to believe that it was all entirely made up. There had to have been some level of truth behind it. Personally, I think that the plea deal is part of the reason they said her earlier confession was false. I think there's something that doesn't quite add up there, and I think in order to get that plea deal and to get the guilty admission, she struck a deal, but in order to cover her tracks, they had to say that previous confession was false. Meanwhile, while all of this is happening, Jessica now decides, oh, my turn, I'm going to plead not guilty. So she pleads no contest to 6 charges relating to child abuse that result in a death. And her story is that she was babysitting Victoria that night, that an unknown man intruded into the house who was gang-related and looking for Fabian, and because Fabian wasn't at the house, he decided to retaliate and go after Victoria, so that he kills Victoria and then says to Jessica, you better clean up this mess and get rid of the body, otherwise I'm coming out after you. So she says then when Michelle and Fabian returned, she enlisted her cousin to help her get rid of the evidence and dispose the body. So what other way than cut the body up and burn it, apparently, right? So then she went on to say that she and her cousin Fabian decided to dismember the body, to clean it up, to burn the body, as though she never existed. She also admits that later that night she takes an iron and goes and hits Michelle and Fabian with the iron and then flees the scene, jumping off the balcony and breaking her leg, and which is true, and she had to be hospitalized because she was trying to flee from the police. Now Fabian's story is up, and he's saying that he was not directly tied to the murder either, that he wasn't at the house, and neither was Michelle, and that in fact it was his cousin Jessica who was there, who decided to kill her, and that he did help her dismember the body to destroy evidence, but that's it. Well, tell me then how poor little Victoria had all of this bodily damage and an STD. Please tell me that. The autopsy revealed from Victoria that she had died from strangulation, she had stab wounds, she had an STD, and she had severe rectal damage. They also discovered that during the dismemberment, Jessica and Fabian had removed her organs. And police say that when they searched the house, they found the bloody knife in the kitchen, and they also found a trash bag full of her organs in their hamper. I mean, this crime is truly horrific and as gruesome as they come. So as he's awaiting trial on a $1 million bail, because it's now no longer a felony murder charge, he was released until his trial in November of 2019. So he is out there right now today, pending trial, but free to do this to anybody else on the street. This decision created a huge controversy and uproar, so much so that people were demanding the judge be removed from the bench because they did not agree with this ruling. So these 3 people essentially got off with murder. Jessica's still in prison and she's going to face the rest of her life in prison. Fabian was released and Michelle is facing 50 years, but none of them were charged for the murder of Victoria. So where is the justice for Victoria? Who is going to be held accountable and responsible for her murder? And this horrific crime goes essentially unpunished. Another fabulous day in the justice system of America. And who's going to speak on behalf of poor Victoria? This story will haunt me forever. Thanks for tuning into this episode. I don't even know where to leave it off. If you enjoy this channel, please subscribe below, comment, share with your friends. Would love to hear your feedback. And until next time, thanks.